Hi Dragons! Dr. Victor here. Thought I would make a video so that it would go along with what you're going to do in class. So many of you mentioned that you were concerned or nervous about taking the class, so I hope to make a video every week, put it in the forum section, and if you have issues or questions, something you want me to address in the next week, do mention that. Something you want me to explain more, I'll be happy to explain it further. I am at my deck. It is a tad windy, so if all of a sudden it goes really shady, I'll be stopping the video and fixing the umbrella. Okay, so this course, I want to make it clear that this course is not what some of you have been fretting about. Okay, it is not the type of course where you're going to do an empirical analysis or where you're going to collect data, analyze data, design your own study, all of that sort of thing. It's not that kind of class. It's a survey class. This comes from the strict criminal justice model. So, in other words, if you had a research design and analysis class, either at Tiffin with Dr. Hurwitz, Dr. Law, myself, or at another university where you studied psychology, sociology, or something like that, or even chemistry or forensic science, then you had a more empirical and quantitative approach, which looks at designs, design type. It's very quantitative, there goes the wind, and not very qualitative. In this class, it's a survey of 3 different types of things and the ones that they use from a strict criminal justice standpoint. Do I think that criminal justice will become more like, more empirical and more quantitative? I do. I certainly see that at criminal justice conferences, but for now, criminal justice analyzes data and surveys data and does research that sort of way, and that's the way you're going to learn it. In this course, it's much less cumbersome than you might have had in the past, so it'll feel really much easier to you because you're not analyzing data or designing your own research. You don't have to worry about the IRB or anything like that. Okay, so that should make you all feel better right now. It's kind of disappointing to me because I was hoping to get you involved in some of my research that I'm doing, and I will talk about that because it does fit in with the design models that they're looking at in criminal justice research as well, how it's changing and evolving. So basically, the type of research, if you were in the CJ class and you were taught by Dr. Law, Dr. Hurwitz, and myself, that type of research fits all science. You could make it apply to chemistry, epidemiology, medical research, anything. Criminal justice is more along the lines of analysis like qualitative research, anthropology, sociology, trying to think, those kinds, historical research, those kinds of research. So they're all good, and I certainly know how to do that kind of research. Just my methodological preference is to do things from a different sort of focus. Okay, I'm going to fix my umbrella here for a minute. Okay, so we're back in the sun. So anyway, that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the different types of designs that you would see most commonly in research for criminal justice practitioners. So the 3 that they talk about are qualitative, quantitative, and mixed measure. So when I do research, I usually always do mixed measure, but it's mostly quantitative. I throw in a piece of mixed measure to explain from the subject's point of view what's really happening, okay? And I'll tell you how that works in a minute. I almost never do quantitative research, but we have had, as a matter of fact, last semester in the seated forensic psych program, we had a grad student who started out doing a content analysis, which is basically qualitative research. And she built it into quantitative research because Dr. Hurwitz and I insisted that she do that. But it was a very cool application of something that starts off as qualitative and ended up as quantitative. So it, in essence, was a mixed measure design, but starting out from a different perspective. So it was very cool. And I'll have her, I'll talk about her study later. So the book, I find, can be kind of tedious. So I just want to give you in a nutshell what they mean by those types of designs. So a qualitative design is when you want to know something that you don't want to make into a numerical analysis. So you want to know someone's opinion, or you want to interview someone, and how do you categorize into meaningful units what you're finding in that interview. So to do that, what you have to do is come up with some way of how to measure it, how to derive meaning from it, but you're really looking at a qualitative difference in maybe opinion or attitude or something like that. A quantitative piece of research is when you are focusing on numbers. You have a very strict controlled design, a factorial or non-factorial design, or repeated measures design, or a non-repeated measures design, or within subjects or between subjects design, or something like that. And you're going to numerically measure something and then statistically analyze that thing and then derive meaning from that. What you're missing in the quantitative study is straight from the horse's mouth. What does that mean? So you're relying on a number to tell you what it means versus the subject themselves telling what it means. This is why I always put a qualitative part into my research, because I want the subject to explain that. So let me give you an example. So I started out doing jury research, and I'm interested in how jurors make decisions in complex cases. So I was a trial consultant. I consulted on a lot of different cases, mostly toxic tort cases. And these are cases that when you have environmental pollution, or you have some sort of chemical that has poisoned someone, or some companies to blame, or some medical malpractice or something like that. That would be a toxic tort, okay? So I run the study, and I look at the plaintiff and the defense, and I have a verdict sheet that goes from 1 to 6, and I have a compensatory damage, how much is the jury going to award to compensate the victim, and a punitive damage sheet. How much are they going to give in punitive damage if they decide to give punitive damages? And that's all numbers. I've translated all of those findings into numbers. And I could just take those findings and use those numbers to get my answer, okay? But I wanted to put down what the juror was feeling when they were reaching that verdict. It's not enough to just simplify it to a number. I want to know what they were thinking when they were reaching their verdict. So what I did was, myself and some attorneys and some research professors, we rated every single piece of evidence along a continuum of probative, non-probative, and extra evidentiary. How relevant was that piece of evidence that they were using to the case? And whenever they said, I looked at it like this, or I looked at it like that, we went back to the evidence and we said, oh, this is X on probative, okay? I also asked, what went into your decision? So, a case that was very complex, and let's say I had this is really what happened, I had an epidemiologist testify, and his testimony was extremely complex, and I wanted to know how people dealt with that complexity. And one elderly lady said to me, honey, what he said, those words came out of his mouth like bullets, which is very informative from a personal point of view. She was telling me, I don't know what he was saying, but it seemed like it was important, which you can't quantify that. So it would only come from an interview. So that's an example of how you have a mixed measures design. You have quantitative, you have an interview section, and the person who's in the study tells you themselves what they're feeling, okay? So there you have it, qualitative and strictly interview, quantitative, strictly math, and a mixed measure, which is a combination of like an interview and math, or two different sorts of things. I hope that gives you some idea of where this is going, and I'm going to post this video, and if you have further questions, or you want me to talk about something else for the next week's topic, let me know. I'll help you out with whatever. You can still text me, you can call me, you can email me. I always notice a text, so that is the best way to get a hold of me. But other than that, talk to you next week. Try and get it up by Wednesdays. Later, dragons. Let me figure out how to turn this thing off. Oh boy, can't see it.